Welcome to the NOSA Unleashed podcast, where we want to expose and remove the stigma surrounding mental health by discussing real-life challenges and obstacles that keep us paralyzed and fearful to move forward. Let us inspire you to believe there is more to life than what you are currently experiencing. Now is the time to end the silence and pursue the path to purpose and fulfillment. We will do this together because no one stands alone. Hello, everyone. It's me, Laura Burgoyne, on the NOSA Unleashed podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you today and with my sister, Connie Blackwood. And we have an interesting topic for you today. And we often have heard the saying, it's not me. Oh, it's not you, it's me. Right. And this is a relation to, when you want to break up a relationship with someone or when things aren't going well. But I want to flip the script on this saying. And this month, we're talking about relationships. We're talking about creating quality connection within relationships. And this is something that I've been implementing in the last couple months, which has really done amazing things in some of my relationships, because I find that sometimes when we project on other people, they get defensive and it causes turmoil within relationship. But when we flip the script and we express things from our point of view and it has nothing to do with the other person, they can receive it. And so I want to open this conversation up. So Connie, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I've heard about these kinds of things for a while, and me and my husband have been like implementing it. And I notice when we're both like focused on how we feel and how things are affecting us as ourselves and not how the other person has done this and the other person has done that, it's has made things a lot better for us. We've actually been able to get to the heart of situations and the hearts of matters and a lot more effectively, a lot more quickly, and been able to resolve things. And so it's important that you do that. And I think we get into these modes where we want to point out how the other person's hurt us, how the other person has harmed us, so that we know we've been heard. But I think when we get into those accusatory times, that's when we're not heard. So we're actually working against ourselves. When you come
Yeah.
from the place where this is how I'm feeling and this is why, it shifts everything, because that's when they can hear you. If you start accusing, that shuts them down completely. And it's important that you actually be heard, right? That's important. It's important and value for many people, that they just want to be heard. They just want to be seen. They just want to be known. And the only way to do that is to actually have those conversations that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in relationships, like if someone comes to you and they say, you did this, you are this, you always do this, you, right? You feel like you're being attacked.
Mm-hmm.
Feel like if I don't defend myself, then like I'm gonna get beaten to a pulp here, right? And so the natural reaction to somebody coming at you like that is to get your back up and to defend yourself, even if what they're saying is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what they're saying is completely true, but the way they're coming at it is causing you to feel threatened. And what do we do when we feel threatened? We attack, we defend, right? And my husband and I, we've had some challenges in our marriage, especially in communication. And, when I started implementing some of these things, I started seeing some shifts. And it's incredible because, it's not that what I was saying was not true, but it was the way that I was coming about it to try to communicate it wasn't working. And it was having the opposite effect that I wanted. And I remember this particular day, I had been utilizing some of these strategies. I had been, trying to implement them, see if they would work. And this one particular day, I remember, I won't go into all the details because this is a public forum, But I remember my husband was quite upset about me for something that he wanted me to do, but I wasn't able to do it. And he said some really harsh things to me that really were very hurtful. But my response to him was not, you said this, you did this, you caused me this pain in this way. My response to him was, can I just share to you what's going on in me? Can I share with you how I'm experiencing this day and this moment and this experience? And I came from that perspective. And immediately when I did that, his defenses came right down. And he realized that he was seeing the whole situation from only his point of view and not someone else's point of view. And it actually opened up the door for us to have clear communication and be able to talk about it in a way that was relational, in a way that was productive, in a way that we both felt like we were being heard, like you said. Like, if you want to have stronger connections in your relationship with your friends, your family, maybe your significant other, this is a really important strategy to start utilizing where we take that accusation out, like you said, right? It's no longer about them, it's about me. It's about how, I feel, how I'm reacting. I'm taking responsibility for myself, being able to say, I'm sorry that I reacted in this way, but this is what's going on inside of me, right? And just completely eliminating that opportunity for miscommunication.
Well, it
I
brings
think so
greater
much
understanding.
miscommunication happens in relationship, right?
Well, it brings understanding, right? Because sometimes people don't understand what is going on inside the other person to get this reaction from them, right? And so
Right.
when you actually can get to that point where you're actually hearing and understanding where that other person is coming from, it all of a sudden changes things, where you actually know why they're reacting this way. And then it gives you clarity. And that's something you don't get when you're in the other side of it.
Mhm. So I know I'm using this strategy a lot more often now that I've been seeing positive results from it and I've been seeing good feedback. I've been seeing clear and edifying communication. Like, have you been able to implement this in your relationship with your husband, and how have you found that it's differed from maybe what you've done in the past?
Um, yeah, so we started using um this way of communicating probably about 8 years ago, I would say.
Mhm.
Maybe, maybe longer. No, it was about 8. And so before that, like there's a lot of times where I didn't feel heard. There's a lot of times where I felt hurt. There's a lot of times where, you know, I felt like, you know, we weren't really understanding each other. And there was a lot of miscommunication. And we went to um, a marriage thing, and they taught us this whole system of how to communicate, talking about ourselves. And we implemented it after that, and it has changed dramatically. Like us just being able
Mhm.
to understand each other. And we constantly want to learn more tools. And we learn even how to understand deeper. So, like, the new thing that we've been learning is not just to understand the words the other person's speaking, but the emotion behind them, right? Because sometimes we get caught up in the words. Well, sometimes it's hard to express your feelings in words, right? And
Right.
so being able to understand the heart that that person has in that moment changes even how you're receiving what they're seeing. And so I feel like as we learn more, we keep implementing more. And I find that when we get into it now, it's way easier to resolve it, because if we realize that we're not in oh, it's this is what's going on with me, we can shift with the way we're discussing it. And so we recognize it much quicker when we get into those modes where it's like you instead of me.
Mhm,
And it's been so effective. Like I feel like we are in a much healthier place than we were earlier on in our marriage. And
mhm,
I'm actually excited. We don't fight that much, so but we do have differences of opinion and differences, but it's become more where we just talk things out, right? And not an argument.
mhm,
And so it's been really awesome that way.
mhm. Yeah, I think a one way of, clearly understanding this concept is what they call I statements,
Hmm.
right? I feel this way because this happened, or I experienced this in this way, or I was triggered in this way, right? Like instead of, saying you caused me to feel this pain, right? And so, that helps me. It's like, am I coming from a place where I'm using I statements, things that are clearly communicating what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I desire, what I need, what I want in this moment. And the moment I start hearing myself saying you, I know I'm getting off track.
Hmm.
And another sign that I know I'm getting off track is by watching the other person's response. Because if the
Hmm.
person's getting angry, frustrated, defensive, maybe they are even getting silent. Because
Hmm.
some people, when they feel attacked, they just retreat. They get silent. They actually stop talking. So if you are seeing any of those signs, there could be a clear indication that maybe you need to take a look inward and change the way you communicate. And this has been a significant area where I've had to make adjustments, and I've been seeing so much amazing results from it. And, closer friendships, closer relationships with my children, with my husband, with extended family. And it's just a much healthier way to communicate and to preserve relationship and actually preserve the dignity of other people, right? Because if someone always feels like they're never measuring up, that they can't meet your standards, that they can't do anything right, what does that do to their self-confidence and their sense of self-worth or their contribution to that relationship, right?
Hmm.
Is there any last thoughts you want to share before we end for today, Connie?
I think the last thing I wanted to share is when you're in the I statements, it actually challenges you to realize where you are at. And you actually get to know yourself in a deeper level because all of a sudden you're like, okay, why do I feel this way? Okay, why am I reacting to this? Okay. And so as you're explaining, it's actually getting you to realize what you're like what's triggering you, what's causing this to problem as a problem. And a lot of times it's something within you, and you don't even recognize it if you don't go into those statements and realize what is behind this. And it actually helps you to be able to figure that stuff out and know yourself better. And down the road, you actually see those things coming in advance because you're like, oh yeah, this is the way I react to this situation. Okay, can I diffuse this before it becomes that? Right?
Mhm.
And so I found that to be an important piece is that I've actually gotten to know myself a lot better through this process.
Absolutely. This is such an important topic, and we want to continue it. So join us next time as we talk more about our triggers and what causes us to get triggered in relationships and in these moments. So join us next time on the Nosa Unleashed podcast. Bye.
Bye.